Hey guys, welcome back to Hoops and Scoops. So in the NBA, the offseason has been crazy. Even though free agency this year was supposed to be one of the not so great years, the free agency and trade market has been absolutely bananas. In this video, we're going to analyze some of the major deals and acquisitions that have happened already, and I'm going to kind of talk about what I think was good and bad for each of those acquisitions. As always, please remember to like the video and subscribe if you're new. Also leave a comment down below and share to any of your friends who you think may like this. Without further ado, let's get into the video. The first acquisition I will talk about today is the Suns acquiring former OKC point guard Chris Paul to pair alongside Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton. Chris Paul is coming off his 15th season in which he averaged 17, 7, and 5 per game while being an NBA All-Star and a part of the All-NBA second team. His leadership carried the young Thunder team to the playoffs in the bubble where they were close to upsetting the Rockets. I think this trade makes sense for both sides. The Thunder got back Kelly Oubre, Ty Jerome, Jalen LeCue, and a first-round pick, which began their pick frenzy, in which they traded all their assets for even more picks this offseason. For the Suns, acquiring the point god finally puts them into playoff contention. Paul is the perfect leader to help elevate the game with Devin Booker and further develop DeAndre Ayton. They gave up a few key pieces, but overall, this is a move that definitely accelerates the direction of the franchise. By making the Suns a solidified playoff contender, I grade this move an A-. For the Thunder, they got back lots of assets for their long-term rebuild, so I give them an A. Next, we have Drew Holiday, who was traded to the Bucks in a blockbuster 14 deal. In an effort to try to convince Giannis Antetokounmpo to sign a supermax, the Bucks gave up Eric Bledsoe, George Hill, and a boatload of future picks and pick swaps for the former Pelicans star guard. Last season, Holiday averaged 19, 7, and 5 for a young Pelicans team. He's arguably the best guard defender in the NBA, and he's a very underrated offensive player. He fits within the Bucks' play style very well, but the only question is if he can improve his catch-and-shoot ability because he'll get lots of open looks from all the attention put on Giannis and Chris Middleton. The Bucks felt like they had to make a splash to help persuade Giannis, and this was definitely a splash. I love Drew Holiday's game, but they just flat out gave him too much to get him. If Giannis leaves next year, the Bucks' future is done for, since they will not be a contender anymore and will not have many picks left. However, if this convinces Giannis to stay in Milwaukee, it's a home run. Therefore, this move could be an A+ or an F. We'll see in a season from now. For the Pelicans, this is a phenomenal trade, as they picked up lots of picks alongside Bledsoe and Steven Adams. The Bucks also had agreed to a trade for former Kings guard Bogdan Bogdanovic, but the trade fell through. Instead, he signed a 4-year, $72 million deal with the Atlanta Hawks, which the Kings did not match. Bogey is a tremendous shooter and scorer that will be a very interesting complement to Trae Young on the wing. He just needs to be a more consistent defender. The Hawks also snagged former OKC forward Danilo Gallinari to a 3-year, $62 million contract. Gallinari, like Bogdanovic, is a bucket getter who's a below-average defender. Gallo averaged almost 19 points per game for the Thunder last season while shooting 40% from 3. Both of these players are very solid. The question now becomes, who do the Hawks give playing time, especially on the wing? All of a sudden, the Hawks may be the deepest team in the league. Trae Young, Kevin Huerter, Rajon Rondo, and Chris Dunn make up their backcourt. On the wing, John Collins, Cam Reddish, and DeAndre Hunter will compete for time with Bogdanovic and Gallinari. Clint Capella, rookie Onyeka Okongwu, and Bruno Fernando are the bigs. The Hawks are now loaded with talented players, now with veterans alongside their young core. If this team can mesh together, they could be a sleeper pick in the Eastern Conference this season. However, I could also see a scenario in which the scorers on this team don't get the ball enough, causing a disaster of a season. I think the former is more likely though, and I grade these two signings a solid B for the Hawks. The defending champion, LA Lakers, kicked off the offseason by trading for former OKC guard Dennis Schroeder. The runner-up for the Sixth Man of the Year award last year, Schroeder averaged 19 points per game. Another guy who just puts the ball in the basket, he is perfect for a Lakers team that was in search of a third scorer to complement LeBron James and Anthony Davis. The Lakers traded Danny Green and their 28th overall pick, which is a pretty low return for a player of Schroeder's ability. He only has a year left on his deal though, which is partly why OKC gladly flipped him for a pick. So I give them another A. The Lakers' biggest missing piece was a consistent third scorer during their title run, which Schroeder fills. Rajon Rondo was huge in the bubble playoffs, but they didn't expect him to re-sign, which is partly why the Lakers wanted to acquire a point guard. The Lakers didn't stop there, though. In a shocking move, they signed former Clippers big man Montrezl Harrell, with their mid-level exception, to a 2-year, $19 million contract. The reigning Sixth Man of the Year, Harrell's a dominant player around the rim, but he struggles majorly on defense, especially in the pick and roll. He averaged 19 and 7 rebounds per game. Many people are saying this was a huge move, but I think because of his defensive inability, this is not such a big deal as people are making it out to be. He'll provide more scoring and energy off the bench, but I don't think this move is huge. I give it a B-. Using all the Lakers' mid-level exception made them sign Kentavious Caldwell-Pope to a much larger deal, prevented them from signing any other somewhat pricey players. However, with the additions of Schroeder, Harrell, Marc Gasol, and Wesley Matthews, I think the Lakers are front-runners to repeat this year, even with the changing of lots of key role players. The rival Los Angeles team, the Clippers, signed Raptors veteran Serge Ibaka to a 2-year, $19 million deal. He is going to replace Harrell's role from last year and may be even better at it for them. Ibaka is a solid rim protector and a good jump shooter who will pair really nicely with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. His experience will be good for the locker room, and he doesn't have much of an ego, which the Clippers really struggled with in their bubble collapse last season. This is a perfect signing for the Clippers, who get a cheap, veteran big man who can possibly play Harrell's role even better this season. I give it an A-. The Charlotte Hornets gave Gordon Hayward a massive bag, 4 years and $128 million, which is way more than his contract he got from Boston in his prime. Hayward has missed 140 games due to injury in the past 3 seasons. With the Celtics last season, he averaged 17, 7, and 4, acting as a complement to Jason Tatum, Kemba Walker, and Jaylen Brown. This is a massive overpay by the Hornets, who are in no need of acquiring an expensive, aging former star. I'm not sure why Michael Jordan felt rushed in his rebuild to give Hayward this contract, as I don't see him adding many wins to this team. With their young core of Devontae Graham, Miles Bridges, PJ Washington, and now number 3 pick LaMelo Ball, this was a very unnecessary move for a rebuilding team far away from contention. I grade this signing a D. An underrated signing so far is Christian Wood to the Rockets for 3 years and $41 million. The former Pistons big is coming off a breakout season after they traded away Andre Drummond. He averaged 13 and 6 per game for the full season, but 22 and 9 in his few games as a starter with an increased role. Wood is super efficient as he shot 57% last year overall and almost 39% from 3. This is a perfect fit alongside James Harden and Russell Westbrook, each of whom don't seem to be planning on being traded yet. The Rockets get a real big man to pair alongside their high-volume superstars, and I like this signing a lot. I grade it an A+. Also, with their signing of DeMarcus Cousins, I think the Rockets got better this offseason, even with the departure of Robert Covington. Speaking of Covington, the Rockets traded him to the Trailblazers for Trevor Ariza and 2 first-round picks. Covington didn't seem to fit there last season after the trade deadline, and they get back a similar player who is much older alongside 2 picks. For the Blazers, they put up a fight in the bubble against the Lakers behind Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. What they realized during that series, though, is that they needed wing defenders to help slow down LeBron James. As with Ariza and Rodney Hood not in the bubble, their best chance was with Carmelo Anthony and Mario Hezonja, 2 not-so-great defenders. Covington is an elite wing defender that will fill this void perfectly. as he averaged 2 blocks per game and 1.5 steals per game last season. Giving up 2 picks might be a little bit too much, but this is the one piece the Blazers were missing on their team. Behind Lillard, the Blazers could be a sleeper team here at having a shot in this year's title. This is an A move for both teams, in my opinion. One interesting draft night deal was between the 76ers and Mavericks. The Mavericks gave up Seth Curry in exchange for Josh Richardson and the 36th pick, who was Tyler Bay. This fits the needs of both teams very well. The Mavericks needed more wing defense to go alongside Luka Doncic, and Josh Richardson is a very good defender who can knock down shots too. They gave up Seth Curry, one of the most elite shooters in the league, to the 76ers, who were desperate for shooting. A career 44% from 3 shooter, he is a perfect fit alongside Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, who are in need of wings and guards who can stretch the floor on offense. Again, I like this move for both teams, and I give each side an A as it addresses their biggest needs. Next, one of the most coveted players in this year's free agent class was one of my favorite players, guard Fred VanVleet, who re-signed with the Raptors for 4 years and $85 million. The 26-year-old guard has consistently improved each of his first 4 seasons after being undrafted, and he finally cashed out this offseason. After a career year of 17 points per game, 6 rebounds per game, 4 assists per game, and 2 steals per game, VanVleet now has become a cornerstone of the franchise after bursting onto the scene during their 2018-2019 championship run. This gets a solid A from me, as VanVleet, alongside Kyle Lowry and Pascal Siakam, look to lead the Raptors into yet another season of being a championship contender. Although the Raptors did lose Marc Gasol and Serge Ibaka this offseason and signed Aaron Baines. The final move I will talk about today is former Nuggets forward Jeremy Grant signing a 3-year, $60 million contract with the Pistons. In the playoffs, Grant showed his versatility defensively by guarding Kawhi Leonard and LeBron James. Grant averaged about 16 points per game in the Western Conference Finals, and he said he wants an increased offensive role in Detroit. Grant is definitely an underrated player with lots of defensive value, but I think his offensive consistency needs to improve drastically to make this deal more logical for the Pistons. He has started to become a more reliable jump shooter, but his consistency and efficiency need to rise to make this massive deal seem worthwhile. Although I like Grant's game, this is definitely an overpay. I grade this Grant deal a B-. And that about wraps it up for today's video. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you did, please remember to leave a like and subscribe if you're new. It would be greatly appreciated. Remember, also go follow the Instagram at Hoops and Scoops YouTube. And yeah, thank you guys for watching, and hopefully I'll see you next time. See ya.